Hello my soul family, welcome to the Cosmic Consciousness Show. My name is Christy Ramirez and I'm your soul coach. I welcome you to watch my Cosmic Consciousness Show, which is a free show, just a little sneak peek of all the deep discussions of enlightenment and reaching this higher state of consciousness. We learn this all in my School of Light. If you want access to all my classes, all my gatherings, my spiritual book club, become a member today at christyramirez.com/school. I will see you all there this year, this fall season. Namaste. Welcome back to the Cosmic Consciousness Show. My name is Christy Ramirez and I'm your soul coach. So this is a special show provided by my School of Light and it's absolutely free. Now this is a series that has been going on in my beach house for this summer. And you know, in the last episode, we started learning about Eckhart Tolle's power of the now. And how does this relate again to cosmic consciousness? Because it's in the beauty of this stillness that we are able to access higher consciousness, and that's what this show is about. It's about teaching you how to be able to reach this knowledge, this inner state of wisdom, and again, higher consciousness. And we all have access to this beautiful gift, but it goes back down to being in the present. And so this is what we're going to continue to learn in the coming episodes. And I really hope that these episodes offered you something today, inspired you to want to learn more. And if you do, please become a member of my School of Light. There's access to just so many different classes, so many different discussions that is going to go even deeper of what we talk here. So welcome all today to episode 3, and let's continue. So get comfortable as well. This is a beautiful day. Every day is a beautiful day to have a wonderful day. And that's the kind of attitude and motto that we should have for our life. Every day is a beautiful new opportunity to go after your goals, your dreams, to seize the day. Carpe diem, right? And not waste 1 second. This is about enjoying all that you do every single day. Don't ever take a day for granted, because you know what? Many people are not privileged enough to be able to even have another day. So just take this into consideration whenever you feel like being frustrated or angry with God, or whenever you feel impatient with your soul journey. Know that it's a process and there is beauty in every phase of your journey. You are a warrior of light. You are stronger than you think. And so let's get started then with today's combo. All right. So this is the actual complementary book to The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is a very famous book that definitely we're going to read over in my spiritual book club, exclusive at my School of Light. But this is what I like to say, it's like a practice manual, and it goes even deeper into making it, again, practical, right? There's essential teachings, meditations, and exercises that relate to the lessons from The Power of Now. So in last episode, we went over one of the chapters, which was Beauty Arises in the Stillness of Your Presence. And today, I want to begin by finishing off the part 2 of this book. And then in the coming episodes, we'll start at the beginning and do those, because I feel like that's the order we need to go in. Right? That would be accessing the power of now, which we will discuss in the next episode. But today we are going to talk about relationship as spiritual practice. And then the final class or episode, we will talk about acceptance and surrender. And all of this ties in with being able to reach cosmic consciousness. All right, so today we have relationship as spiritual practice. Now, what kind of relationship are we talking about here? Now, this is relationship with self, higher self, relationship with God. So chapter 6 begins with dissolving the pain body. And again, this goes back to even human suffering, which is so interesting because if I'm to share something with you all, I have a special journal and / diary. No, it's a journal because it's a journal that I have by my bedside. And anytime that I feel inspired to write anything that comes from my heart, my soul, or any poem even, and that journal has been begun in 2019 when I began that journal. And I actually was inspired to open it yesterday because it's not an everyday thing that happens. Only when something very special comes through am I guided to open that journal. And it's interesting because last night I channeled this whole little post, like this whole little summary paragraph of human suffering and how to be able to transcend that. So I'll definitely be posting that. But basically, human suffering comes down to the mind. And the core root of human suffering comes down to also our emotions. Our emotions are the compass of our soul. So when we learn to accept the truth of our emotions, we're actually liberated from human suffering because our emotions are telling us what's either right or wrong. If you're with the right person, if you're in the right job, if you're doing what you love, if you're on the right path. And if it's not, then it's a guidance to change. And it's a motivator for you to be able to take those action steps. And that's actually the way that we release ourselves from human suffering, because part of being human is acknowledging that suffering is inevitable. But when we can shift our perspective about the actual suffering and realize that it's actually an illusion of the mind and of the ego playing in our life, then we're able to let it go and accept what is and trust and again surrender to God's divine plan. So the more that we work on evolving on our soul journey is how we're actually going to be on the highest path. And that's kind of a brief summary of what I said last night, of what I wrote. So let's begin then. Love is a state of being. Your love is not outside, it is deep within you. You can never lose it and it cannot leave you. And it is not dependent on some other body, some external form. Because again, this inner joy, love, forgiveness, compassion for whatever it is that's causing this so-called misperceived suffering is externally thrown at you, right? But when you're able to change your inner state about that situation and shift your perspective, then you can always choose love over fear. And that's again what A Course in Miracles, which is the current series in my spiritual book club, at my School of Light, is what we're learning and what it's teaching us. And also, this is the way to enlightenment. And that's what we're also talking about in my spiritual gatherings, Buddha Talks, in my School of Light every week. So definitely don't miss out. If you want to be a member and get access to those extra discussions, definitely do at christianrivers.com/school. Okay, so the greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs in your life, right? Because this is living like a robot in a way. You're just going through the motions, but by actually being immersed in the moment, we're able to see from a higher perspective and able to see between the lines as well, interpret the situation correctly. So the pain that you create now is always some form of non-acceptance, what I just said. Some form of unconscious resistance to what is. That can be stubbornness. Again, that is the ego. And the only way to be able to dissolve pain is to dissolve the ego. So on the level of thought, the resistance is some form of judgment. We're judging something to be wrong, but who says it's wrong, right? That's your own ego telling you that whatever it is that you're experiencing is not the way it should be. But that just means that you're not surrendering. So on the emotional level, it's some form of negativity. The intensity of the pain depends on the degree of resistance to the present moment, and this in turn depends on how strongly you are identified with your mind, hence the ego. The mind always seeks to deny the now and to escape from it. And that's where numbing comes in, and why a lot of people engage in addictions, because they're trying to run away from the pain. But guess what? That pain is actually trying to tell you something. So why not listen? Again, these emotions, that is, pain is an emotion. Listen to your emotional body and let it guide you towards your happiness, your true joy. In other words, the more you are identified with your mind, the more you suffer. Or you may put it like this: the more you are able to honor and accept the now, the more you are free of pain, of suffering, and free of the egoic mind. Now, I just don't make this up, I didn't read this chapter before I came up here. And I haven't actually read this part of the book ever. So I'm just impressed right now with how God works. You see, I had channeled all of this even last night, even before I came up here, knowing exactly what I was going to talk about. So this is definitely the message for us during these times, this summer of 2021, as I'm filming this, and as you're all listening and watching this video. Some spiritual teachings state that all pain is ultimately an illusion, and this is true. The question is it true for you? A mere belief doesn't make it true. And do you want to experience pain for the rest of your life and keep saying that is an illusion? Because again, that's your own free will choice. Does that actually free you from the pain, or does it make it worse? What we are concerned with here is how you can realize this truth. That is, make it real in your own experience. This is the truth of the matter. Whether you want to accept it or not, again, is up to you. Pain is inevitable as long as you are identified with your mind, which is to say, as long as you are unconscious, spiritually speaking. I'm talking here primarily of emotional pain, which is also the main cause of physical pain and physical disease. Resentment, hatred, self-pity, guilt, anger, depression, jealousy, and so on, even the slightest irritation, are all forms of pain. And every pleasure or emotional high contains within itself the seed of pain, because what's the opposite of those emotions, right, is the ultimate low. So it's inseparable opposite, which will manifest in time, which is why it's always very important to be in balance when it comes to our emotions, to be emotionally stable and not be too high nor too low, because trust me that if you're too high, the fall will seem really low. And of course, if you're really low, you're going to want to experience that ultimate high and then be reckless and impulsive with your life. And that's not, again, the answer as well. That's not the solution. The solution is to have consistent, steady peace and serenity year-round. That's the way that we live a high-quality life. And again, you see, anybody who has ever taken drugs to get that high will know that the high eventually turns into a low, that the pleasure turns into some form of pain. It's just inevitable, because that's one of the actual Hermetic principles, which is the principle of polarity, the opposites, right? And that's again inevitable again. What's the opposite of the darkness? It's the light. But without darkness, there would be no light. So they're interchangeable, they're interconnected. So your way out is to find that medium in between. Alright, so many people also know from their own experience how easily and quickly an intimate relationship can turn from a source of pleasure to a source of pain. And this is because it's probably seeked out, that relationship, whether it be for sexual pleasure. It's again a way of numbing out from what you're really feeling inside, or whatever's happening in your life, which is why true spiritual tantric relationships are more than just physical pleasure. It's because of this reason, because the ecstasy of sex and even orgasm, which Osho teaches us, are transitory. They're not for everlasting unless there's a deeper emotional bond behind that, which is intimacy and true spiritual connection. And that's again where Tantra comes in. And I'll be actually teaching classes on this in my School of Light as well, because this definitely relates to personal and romantic relationships. So seen from a higher perspective, both the negative and the positive polarities are faces of the same coin, are part of the underlying pain that is inseparable from the mind-identified egoic state of consciousness. So there are two levels to your pain. The pain that you create now, and the pain from the past that still lives on in your mind and body. Right? So, and even the pain of perhaps fear of the future can also be a source of pain. So as long as you are unable to access the power of the now, every emotional pain that you experience leaves behind a residue of pain that lives on in you. It merges with the pain from the past, which was already there, and becomes lodged in your mind and body. This, of course, includes the pain that you suffered as a child, caused by the unconsciousness of the world into which you were born. So this accumulated pain is a negative energy field that occupies your body and mind. And if you look on it as an invisible entity, in its own right, you're getting quite close to the truth. It is the emotional pain body. The pain body has two modes of being, the dormant and the active. It may be dormant 90% of the time in a deeply unhappy person, though it may be active up to 100% of the time as well. Some people live almost entirely through their pain body, while others may experience it only in certain situations, such as intimate relationships or situations linked with past loss or abandonment, physical or emotional hurt, and so on. Anything can trigger it, particularly if it resonates with a pain pattern from your past, right? Because it's resurfacing again these memories, these emotions from the past. And when it is ready to awaken from its dormant stage, things, emotions that you buried deep in your subconscious, even a thought or an innocent remark made by someone close to you can activate it. And that's again not a way to live. This is living with our traumas. And that's again why also in my spiritual counseling TV network, we are learning trauma recovery in our therapy sessions. So definitely become a member there if you want access to those sessions, if you're dealing with traumas in your life. And remember that everybody has some sort of trauma. Nobody's excluded from this. So you can definitely benefit. All right. Breaking identification with the pain body. The pain body doesn't want you to observe it directly and see it for what it is. The moment that you observe the pain body, feel its energy field within you and take your attention into it, the identification is broken. A higher dimension of consciousness has come in. I call it presence. You are now the witness or the watcher of the pain body. This means that it cannot use you anymore by pretending to be you, and it can no longer replenish itself through you. You have found your own innermost strength. Some pain bodies are obnoxious, but relatively harmless. For example, like a child who won't stop whining. Others are vicious and destructive monsters, true demons. Some are physically violent. Many more are emotionally violent. Some will attack people around you or close to you, while others may attack you, their host. Thoughts and feelings that you have about your life then become deeply negative and self-destructive. Illnesses and accidents are often created in this way. Some pain bodies drive their host to even suicide. And when you thought you knew a person, and then you're suddenly confronted with this alien, nasty creature for the first time, you are in for quite a shock. It is more important, however, to observe it in yourself than in someone else. So watch out for any sign of unhappiness in yourself, in whatever form. It may be the awakening pain body. And again, this is just a call and a cry for help from your own self to change something about your life to make you happy, right? This can take the form of irritation, impatience, a somber mood, a desire to hurt, anger, rage, depression, a need to have some drama in your relationship, and so on. Catching the moment that it awakens from its dormant state. And the pain body wants to survive, just like every other entity in existence, and it can only survive if it gets you to unconsciously identify with it. It can then rise up, take you over, become you, and live through you. It needs to get its food through you. It will feed on any experience that resonates with its own kind of energy. Anything that creates further pain in whatever form, anger, destructiveness, hatred, grief, emotional drama, violence, and even illness. So the pain body, when it has taken you over, will create a situation in your life that reflects back its own energy frequency for it to feed on, right? This is through the law of attraction. By you embracing that pain body and accepting it as part of you, you're actually attracting more of that pain in your life through situations. And that's, again, a key red flag that you need to shift your emotions so that you may be able to experience the opposite of whatever suffering you think you're suffering, you think you're experiencing, right? Pain can only feed on pain. It doesn't feed on love. Pain cannot feed on joy. It finds it quite indigestible. So once the pain body has taken you over, you want more pain. You become a victim or a perpetrator. You want to inflict pain, or you want to suffer pain, or both. There isn't really much difference between the two. You are not conscious of this, of course, and will vehemently claim that you do not want pain, but look closely and you will find that your thinking and behavior are designed to keep the pain going for yourself and others. If you were truly conscious of it, the pattern were dissolved. For to want more pain is insanity, and nobody is consciously insane, right? The pain body, which is the dark shadow cast by the ego, is actually afraid of the light of your consciousness. It is afraid of being found out. Its survival depends on your unconscious identification with it, as well as on your unconscious fear of facing the pain that lives in you. But if you don't face it, if you don't bring the light of your consciousness into the pain, you will be forced to relive it again and again. The pain body may seem to you like a dangerous monster that you cannot bear to look at, but I assure you that it is an insubstantial phantom that cannot prevail against the power of your presence. So when you become the watcher and start to disidentify, the pain body will continue to operate for a while and will try to trick you into identifying with it again. Although you are no longer energizing it through your identification, it has a certain momentum, just like a spinning wheel, that will keep turning for a while even when it is no longer being propelled. At this stage, it may also create physical aches and pains in different parts of the body, but they won't last. Stay present, stay conscious. Be the ever alert guardian of your inner space. You need to be present enough to be able to watch the pain body directly and feel its energy. It then cannot control your thinking. So the moment that your thinking is aligned with the energy field of the pain body, you are identified with it and again feeding it with your thoughts. For example, if anger is the predominant energy vibration of the pain body and you think angry thoughts, dwelling on what someone did to you or what you're going to do to him or her, then you have become unconscious and that pain body has become you. And where there is anger, there is always pain underneath. Or when a dark mood comes upon you and you start getting into a negative mind pattern and thinking how dreadful your life is, your thinking has become aligned with the pain body. And then you have become unconscious and vulnerable to the pain body's attack. Unconscious, the way that I use the word here, needs to be identified with some mental or emotional pattern. It implies a complete absence of the watcher. So now let's move on to transmuting suffering into consciousness. Hence, kind of like what I began saying, we transmute suffering by acceptance, and that's actually enlightenment, right? So that's the irony. Sustained conscious attention serves the link between the pain body and your thought processes and brings about the process of transmutation. This is how we alchemize joy into our life. It is as if the pain becomes fuel for the flame of your consciousness, which then burns more brightly as a result. And this is the esoteric meaning of the ancient art of alchemy, the transmutation of base metal into gold, of suffering into consciousness. The split within is healed and you become whole again. Your responsibility then is not to create further pain. So focus attention on the feeling inside you. Know that it is the pain body. Accept that it is there. Don't think about it. Don't let the feeling turn into thinking. Don't judge or analyze. Don't make an identity for yourself out of it. Stay present and continue to be the observer of what's happening inside you. Become aware not only of the emotional pain, but also of the one who observes, the silent watcher. This is the power of the now, the power of your own conscious presence, and then see what happens. Ego identification with the pain body. The process that I've just described is profoundly powerful yet simple. It could be taught to a child, and hopefully one day it will be one of the first things that children learn in school. Once you have understood the basic principle of being present as the watcher of what happens inside you, and you understand it by experiencing it, you have at your disposal the most potent transformational tool. And this is not to deny that you may encounter intense inner resistance to disidentifying from your pain. This will be the case particularly if you have lived closely identified with your emotional pain body for most of your life, and the whole or a large part of your sense of self is invested in it. What this means is that you have made an unhappy self out of your pain body and believe that this mind-made fiction is who you are. And again, that's the illusion, right? You need to break out of that falsity. In that case, unconscious fear of losing your identity will create strong resistance to any disidentification. In other words, you would rather be in pain, so be the pain body, than take a leap into the unknown and risk losing the familiar unhappy self. So observe the resistance within yourself. Observe the attachment to your pain. Be very alert. Observe the peculiar pleasure that you derive from being unhappy. Observe the compulsion to talk or think about it. The resistance will cease if you make it conscious. You can then take your attention into the pain body, stay present as the witness, and so initiate its transmutation. Only you can do this. Nobody can do it for you. This is, again, free will. But if you're fortunate enough to find someone who is intensely conscious, it can be with them and join them in the state of presence. If you can be with them and join them in the state of presence, that can be helpful and will accelerate things. In this way, your own light will quickly grow stronger. When a log that has only just started to burn is placed next to one that is burning fiercely, and after a while they're separated again, the first log will be burning with much greater intensity. After all, it is the same fire. To be such a fire is one of the functions of a spiritual teacher. Some therapists may also be able to fulfill that function, provided that they have gone beyond the level of mind and can create and sustain a state of intense conscious presence while they are working with you. Remember that in order to be able to reach this intense conscious presence and state of being, a lot of stillness is required, and a lot of people get uncomfortable with this which is why they quit and they're never able to reach this higher consciousness. It takes a lot of discipline to be able to still your mind, to be able to even still your life. Whatever's happening outside of you, let it be for there. It will come back to you. You'll return and be able to, finish wherever you started. But by you taking that time out, that takes self-control. And that truly is going to reach you that higher state of being. Okay, so the first thing to remember is this: as long as you can make an identity for yourself out of the pain, you cannot become free of it. As long as part of your sense of self is invested in your emotional pain, then you will unconsciously resist or sabotage every attempt that you make to heal that pain. And why? Quite simply because you want to keep yourself intact, and the pain has become an essential part of you. And this is an unconscious process, and the only way to overcome it is to make it conscious, right? To accept it. And now we move on to the power of your presence. To suddenly see that you are or have been attached to your pain can be quite a shocking realization. The moment you realize this, you have broken the attachment. The pain body is an energy field, almost like an entity that has become temporarily lodged into your inner space. So you need to remove that and purify your auric space to be able to think clearly. It is life energy that has become trapped. Energy that's no longer flowing and may not even be yours, right? So of course, the pain body is there because of certain things that happened in the past. It is the living past in you. And if you continue to identify with it, you identify with the past. A victim identity is the belief that the past is more powerful than the present, which is the opposite of the truth. It is the belief that other people and what they did to you are responsible for who you are now, but that's not true, because it's your reactions to those experiences that made you who you are now, right? And that's so different. Such a different perspective and way of looking at things, right? For your emotional pain or your inability to be your true self. So the truth is that the only power there is contained within this moment. It is the power of your presence. Once you know that, you also realize that you're responsible for your inner space now. Nobody else is, and that the past cannot prevail against the power of the now. Unconsciousness creates it. Consciousness transmutes it into itself. St. Paul expressed this universal principle beautifully. Everything is shown up by being exposed to the light. And whatever is exposed to the light itself becomes light. Just as you cannot fight the darkness, you cannot fight the pain body. Trying to do so would create inner conflict and thus further pain. Watching it is enough. Watching it implies accepting it as part of what is at that moment. Beautiful way to end that chapter. Let's move on to the next one, which is from addictive to enlightened relationship. This is very important because this actually ties in very nicely with the tantric conversations that we have at the School of Light. A true spiritual relationship and union is not codependent, is not addictive. It is rather enlightened. It's actually free. And that's what we're going to learn right now. Alright, so let's continue. Alright, so love-hate relationships, and what's the difference? And that again is another polar opposite, right? The polar opposite of love is hate. And you can tell that in that love-hate cycle, there's a lot of intense passion. Because the actual opposite of the love-hate cycle is indifference, right? So unless and until you access the consciousness, the frequency of presence, all relationships, and particularly intimate relationships, are deeply flawed and ultimately dysfunctional. They may seem perfect for a while, such as when you are in love, but invariably that apparent perfection gets disrupted as arguments, conflicts, dissatisfaction, and emotional or even physical violence occur with increasing frequency. Now, this is all happening if there is not that true, genuine spiritual connection at the core, right? It seems that most love relationships become love-hate relationships before long. Love can then turn into savage attack, feelings of hostility, or complete withdrawal of affection at the flick of a switch. This is considered normal. If in your relationships you experience both love and the opposite of love, which is attack, emotional violence, and so on, then it is likely that you are confusing ego attachment and addictive clinging with love. You cannot love your partner one moment and then attack him or her the next, right? Because that's being completely unauthentic. True love has no opposite. It just is. It always is love. You can always see your partner with compassion no matter what. If your love has an opposite, then it is not love to begin with, but rather just a strong ego need for a complete and deeper sense of self. A need that the other person temporarily meets. Again, this is when people enter relationships to actually run away from an emotion, numb out an emotion, deny an emotion, or try to heal with that relationship, which again will never work, because you don't enter a partnership to heal each other per se. Yes, love can heal, but at a certain level you need to be healed by your own already, right? You need to both be at a healthy state within, because that's what manifests the most high vibrational kind of relationships. Not when you're trying to seek something from another person. You need to be able to be emotionally independent first and have your life together, and then come together with an equal counterpart. Okay, so it is the ego's substitute for salvation, and for a short time it almost does feel like salvation, right? But that's again the illusion, because that's not going to last forever. And there comes a point when your partner behaves in ways that fail to meet your needs, because now there's expectations. Now you want them to be something that they're not, and that's again, you know, the ego coming in. Or rather those of your ego, right? Your egoing needs. So the feelings of fear, pain, and the lack that are an intrinsic part of egoic consciousness, but have been covered up by the love relationship now resurface, right? Eventually it will come to the light. It always does. So just as with every other addiction, love and relationships can also be an addiction, you know, such as people who are always in relationships and what's called serial dating, or people who are just codependent on a partner and don't know how to be on their own, and that's why they never have the chance to heal, right? So just as with every other addiction, you are on a high when the drug is available, but invariably there comes a time when the drug no longer works for you, right? It loses its tolerance. You build tolerance to that drug. So when those painful feelings reappear, you feel them even more strongly than before. And what is more, you now perceive your partner as the cause of those feelings. Now blame comes into the equation. And again, that's actually what we're learning in my couples therapy talk show at my Spiritual Counseling TV Network membership subscription. So definitely become a member if you want access to those talks and learn more about couples therapy. I do definitely talk a lot about this. Now this means that you project them outward and attack the other with all the savage violence that is part of your pain, because you want to, deep within, you want to blame them, but deep down inside you know that it's not their fault, right? So this attack may awaken the partner's own pain, and he or she may counter your attack, and at this point the ego is still unconsciously hoping that its attack or its attempts at manipulation will be sufficient punishment to induce your partner to change their behavior, so that it can use them again as a cover-up for your pain. So again, this is all masking what's really going on within. Every addiction arises from an unconscious refusal to face or move through your own pain. That's the sad truth. Every addiction starts with pain and ends with pain. And the only way to break that cycle is to actually confront that addiction. So whatever the substance you are addicted to, whether it be alcohol, food, legal or illegal drugs, or a person, you're using something or somebody to cover up your pain. And should I correct myself, you know, the only thing that can break the cycle is actually figuring out what's the cause of that addiction. That's how you break the true cycle, right? Now, that is why after the initial euphoria has passed, there is much unhappiness, because you're not really going at the core of the issue. You're just masking and trying to correct the symptoms, which is the addiction. But the real internal cause of it is your emotions. So, and maybe even the ego, right, playing out. So this is why after the initial euphoria has passed, there's much unhappiness, so much pain in intimate relationships. They do not cause pain and unhappiness. They bring out the pain and unhappiness that is already in you. Every addiction does that. Every addiction reaches a point where it does not work for you anymore. And then you feel the pain more intensely than ever, because now you don't have that escapism anymore. So now you're left with nothing but confronting that issue, right? So this is one reason why most people are always trying to escape from the present moment, because they're afraid of what they're going to discover in that moment. And so they're seeking some kind of salvation in the future, which is never going to be there. The first thing that they might encounter if they focus their attention on the now is their own pain. And that's why some people, when they first begin either meditation or practicing the stillness, they cry a lot, and they're purging all of these emotions that they've been running away from for years. And eventually, once you accept those emotions and let them be, that's when you'll experience this liberation and this peace that you're seeking. And that's again the irony. You have to let those emotions come through and just accept it. Don't block yourself and don't punish yourself for feeling the way that you do. Eventually, you will realize how it is that you can change your emotional state the true, genuine way. So, and that's what they fear, right? Their own pain. If they only knew how easy it is to access in the now the power of presence that dissolves the past and its pain, the reality that dissolves the illusion. If they only knew how close they are to their own reality, how close to God, because that's where we also find God, in that stillness. So avoidance of relationships in an attempt to avoid pain is not the answer either. It's not about being alone either, in fear that you will experience this pain, right? The pain is going to be there anyway. 3 failed relationships in as many years are more likely to force you into awakening than 3 years on a desert island or shut away in your room. But if you could bring intense presence into your aloneness, that would work for you too. So again, this is your option, right? Option A, Eckhart Tolle, is saying a person being in a relationship, letting that be their teacher. And the other person who is away, shut out from the world, can still experience this enlightenment so long as they allow themselves to be in the present, in this stillness. Alright, so now from addictive to enlightened relationships, how do we move from this? Whether you're living alone or with a partner, this remains the key. Being present and intensifying your presence by taking your attention ever more deeply into the now. For love to flourish, the light of your presence needs to be strong enough so that you no longer get taken over by the thinker or this pain body and mistake them for who you really are. To know yourself as the being underneath the thinker, the stillness underneath the mental noise, the love and joy underneath the pain, is freedom, salvation, and enlightenment. To disidentify from the pain body is to bring presence into the pain and thus transmute it. To disidentify from thinking is to be the silent watcher of your thoughts and behavior, especially the repetitive patterns of your mind and the roles played by the ego. So if you stop investing it with selfness, the mind loses its compulsive quality, which basically is the compulsion to judge and so to resist what is, which creates conflict, drama, and pain. So hence the ego. In fact, the moment that judgment stops through acceptance of what is, you free yourself from whatever illusion is clouding that judgment. You are free of the mind. You have made room now for love, joy, and peace. So first, you stop judging yourself. Then you stop judging your partner. And the greatest catalyst for change in a relationship is complete acceptance of your partner as he or she is, without needing to judge or change them in any way. That immediately takes you beyond ego. All mind games and all addictive clinging are then over. There are no victims and no perpetrators anymore, no accuser and accused. And this is also the end of all codependency that I said, of being drawn into somebody else's unconscious pattern and thereby enabling it to continue. You will then either separate in love or ever more deeply into the now together into being. Now, can it be that simple? Yes, it's that simple. Love is a state of being. Your love is not outside, it is deep within you. You cannot lose it, and it cannot leave you. It is not dependent on some other body, some external form. It's in the stillness of your presence that you can feel your own formless and timeless reality as the unmanifested life that animates your physical form. You can then feel that same life deep within every other human and every other creature. You look beyond the veil of form and separation. This is the realization of oneness. This is love. Now, although brief glimpses are possible, love cannot flourish unless you are permanently free of mind identification and your presence is intense enough to have dissolved that pain body, or you can at least remain present as the watcher. The pain body cannot then take you over and so become destructive of love. So this brings us now to relationships as spiritual practice. Alright, so now we move on to relationships as a spiritual practice. As humans have become increasingly identified with their mind, most relationships are not rooted in being, and so turn into a source of pain and become dominated by problems and conflict. If relationships energize and magnify egoic mind patterns and activate the pain body, as they do at this time, why not accept this fact rather than try to escape from it? Why not cooperate with it instead of avoiding relationships or continuing to pursue the phantom of an ideal partner as an answer to your problems or as a means of feeling fulfilled? With the acknowledgement and acceptance of the facts also comes a degree of freedom from them, right? Because again, we're just surrendering to what is. No needing to change anything. For example, when you know that there is disharmony and you hold that inner knowing, through your knowing, a new factor has come in, and the disharmony cannot remain unchanged. But there is a way out. You can change that state. And when you know that you're not at peace, your knowing creates a still space that surrounds your non-peace in a loving and tender embrace, and then transmutes your non-peace into peace. As far as inner transformation is concerned, there is nothing you can do about it. You cannot transform yourself, and you certainly cannot transform your partner or anybody else. All that you can do is create a space for transformation to happen, for grace and love to enter. And this is how we remain open to whatever may come in the moment. Stay open for this love, for this grace, for this transformation. So whenever your relationship is not working, whenever it brings out the madness in you and in your partner, be glad, because this is telling you something. What was unconscious is now being brought up to the light. It is actually an opportunity for salvation. Now, this is a very interesting perspective to have, right? With any argument that may surface in partnerships, because they will, but more if they're not the right partner for you, right? So definitely, great point today, Eckhart Tolle. And look at this little quote in the back. All you really need to do is accept this moment fully. You are then at ease in the here and now and at ease within yourself. Alright, so every moment, hold the knowing of that moment. particularly of your inner state. If there is anger, know that there is anger. If there is jealousy, defensiveness, the urge to argue, the need to be right, an inner child demanding love and attention, or emotional pain of any kind, whatever it is, know the reality of that moment and hold the knowing. The relationship then becomes your sadhana, or your spiritual practice. And if you observe unconscious behavior in your partner, hold it in the loving embrace of your knowing so that you won't react. Unconsciousness and knowing cannot coexist for long, even if the knowing is only in the other person and not in the one who is acting out the unconsciousness. The energy form that lies behind hostility and attack finds the presence of love absolutely intolerable. If you react at all to your partner's unconsciousness, you become unconscious yourself. But if you then remember to know your reaction, nothing is lost. Never before have relationships become or been as problematic and conflict-ridden as they are now. As you may have noticed, they are not here to make you happy or fulfilled. And if you continue to pursue the goal of salvation through a relationship, you will be disillusioned again and again. But if you accept that the relationship is here to make you conscious instead of happy, then the relationship will offer you salvation. Right? Because it makes you conscious of whatever truth needs to be brought to light. And you will be aligning yourself with the higher consciousness that wants to be born into this world. That's very powerful. And this is how relationships do become our teachers. This could be a relationship with a partner. It can also be a relationship with your higher self, relationship with God, relationship with others, relationship with what you do. For those who hold on to the old patterns, there will be increasing pain, violence, confusion, and madness. How many people does it take to make your life into a spiritual practice? Never mind if your partner will not cooperate. Sanity consciousness can only come into this world through you. You do not need to wait for the world to become sane or for somebody else to become conscious before you can be enlightened. You may wait forever. Do not accuse each other of being unconscious. The moment you start to argue, you have identified with a mental position and are now defending not only that position but also your sense of self. The ego is in charge. You may have become unconscious. At times, it may be appropriate to point out certain aspects of your partner's behavior. If you are very alert, very present, then you can do so without any ego involvement, without blaming, accusing, or making the other person wrong. When your partner behaves unconsciously, relinquish all judgment. Judgment is either to confuse someone's unconscious behavior with who they are or to project your own unconsciousness onto another person and mistake that for who they are. To relinquish judgment does not mean that you do not recognize dysfunction and unconsciousness when you see it. It means being the knowing rather than being the reaction and the judge. You will then either be totally free of reaction or you may react and still be the knowing, the space in which the reaction is watched and allowed to be. Instead of fighting the darkness, you bring in the light. Instead of reacting to delusion, you see the delusion yet at the same time look through it. Being the knowing creates a clear space of loving presence that allows all things and all people to be as they are. No greater catalyst for transformation exists. And so if you practice this, your partner cannot stay with you and remain unconscious. If you both agree that the relationship will be your spiritual practice, so much the better. You can then express your thoughts and feelings to each other as soon as they occur, or as soon as a reaction comes up, so that you do not create a time gap in which an unexpressed or unacknowledged emotion or grievance can fester and grow. Learn to give expression to what you feel without blaming. Learn to listen to your partner in an open, non-defensive way. Give your partner space for expressing himself or herself. Be present. Accusing, defending, attacking, all those patterns that are designed to strengthen or protect the ego or to get its needs met will then become redundant. Giving space to others and to yourself is vital. Love cannot flourish without it. So when you have removed these two factors that are destructive of relationships, when the pain body has been transmuted, and you are no longer identified with mind and mental positions, and if your partner has done the same, you will experience this bliss of the flowering of relationship. And instead of mirroring to each other your pain and your unconsciousness, instead of satisfying your mutual addictive ego needs, you will reflect back to each other the love that you feel deep within, the love that comes with the realization of your oneness with all that is. So this is the love that has no opposite. If your partner is still identified with the mind and the pain body while you are already free, this will represent a major challenge, not to you but to your partner. It's not easy to live with an enlightened person, or rather, it's so easy that the ego finds it extremely threatening. So remember that the ego needs problems, conflict, and enemies to strengthen that sense of separateness on which its identity depends. The unenlightened partner's mind will be deeply frustrated because its fixed positions are not resisted, which means that they will become shaky and weak. And there is even the danger that they may collapse altogether, resulting in loss of self. So this pain body is demanding feedback and not getting it. So of course it gets frustrated. So then the need for argument, drama, and conflict is not being met. And now we move on. Give up the relationship with yourself. Enlightened or not, you are either a man or a woman. So on the level of your form identity, you are not complete. You are one half of the whole. And this incompleteness is felt as male-female attraction. The pull towards the opposite energy polarity, no matter how conscious you are. But in that state of interconnectedness, you feel this pull somewhere on the surface or periphery of your life. Now, this does not mean that you don't relate deeply to other people or to your partner. In fact, you can relate deeply only if you are conscious of being. Coming from being, you are able to focus beyond the veil of form. And so in being, male and female are actually one. And this is one of the basic principles of Tantra. The returning to oneness, right? Your form may continue to have certain needs, but being has none. And we're saying being with the capital B. And this is because it is already complete and whole. And if those needs are met, that is beautiful. But whether or not they are met makes no difference, or to your deep inner state. So it is perfectly possible for an enlightened person, if the need for the male or female polarity is not met, to feel a sense of lack or incompleteness on the outer level of his or her being, yet at the same time be totally complete, fulfilled, and at peace within. If you cannot be at ease with yourself when you are alone, you will seek a relationship to cover up your unease. You can be sure that the unease will then reappear in some other form within the relationship, and you will probably hold your partner responsible for it. All that you really need to do is accept this moment fully, and you are then at ease in the here and now, and at ease with yourself. But do you need to have a relationship with yourself at all? Why can't you just be yourself? When you have a relationship with yourself, you split yourself into two: I and myself, subject and object, right? You and your higher self. That mind-created duality is the root cause of all unnecessary complexity, of all problems and conflicts in your life, because the true challenge is being able to embody your higher self as the real you. You see the difference? Without any ego. So in the state of enlightenment, you are yourself. You and yourself merge into one. You do not judge yourself. You do not feel sorry for yourself. You are not proud of yourself. You do not love yourself. You do not hate yourself, and so on. The split caused by self-reflective consciousness is healed, its curse removed, and there is no self that you need to protect, defend, or feed anymore. And when you are enlightened, there is one relationship that you no longer have, the relationship with yourself. Once you've given that up, all your other relationships will be love relationships. That's so powerful. And it basically gets down back to the fact, this is about no longer do we have a relationship with our ego, but only we are living through our higher self. That's a very powerful message for today's episode. Thank you all for joining me here today. Again, definitely be a member of my School of Life if you want access to more deep talks like this. So much great content that's educational, entertaining, and just so enlightening. My name is Christopher Ramirez and I'm your soul coach. Thank you all for watching today and joining me in today's discussion. Namaste.